It begins quietly. A familiar glow in a dark room. One thumb scrolls through a cascade of images and headlines, recipes, outrage, laughter, fear. Each post feels random, but none of it is. Behind the screen, something is watching, calculating, deciding. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't need to. What if the stories we consume, the opinions we adopt, even the emotions we feel, aren't entirely our own? In the 1950s, the word brainwashing entered the American lexicon. Back then, the fear centered on foreign agents and ideological reprogramming, anxieties of a Cold War era where enemies might bend minds into submission. But today, the tools of persuasion don't require interrogation rooms or re-education camps. They require only our attention. Now, influence is personal. Invisible lines of code, algorithms, determine what we see and what we don't. They predict our next move, then quietly shape it, subtly, relentlessly, unseen. This is no longer just about what entertains us. It's about what forms us. And the question is no longer if we're being shaped, but how far it's already gone. There's a quiet order beneath the chaos of the internet. What feels like spontaneity, our morning scroll, our lunchtime click, our midnight binge, is often anything but. 70% of Americans now rely on social media, and nearly half admit it's where they get their news. Globally, more than 5 billion users spend over 2 hours a day in these digital spaces. That's not just time. It's exposure, and exposure, repeated daily, becomes conditioning. But who decides what fills that time? Not editors, not journalists, not even ourselves. Increasingly, it's algorithms, silent, ceaseless systems that decide what content we see, when we see it, and how often we return. We don't open the feed opens us. This begins with a promise. Personalization, a world tailored just for you, news that reflects your values, entertainment that mirrors your taste. It feels like control, but it is a system that learns to please us by shaping us. Eli Pariser warned of this in The Filter Bubble back in 2011. If everything we see confirms what we already believe, then we stop seeing anything else. What once seemed like curation becomes insulation. The bubble becomes a blindfold. And yet we come back, not because we're forced, but because it feels good, and that's by design. Platforms are built not just to serve content, but to addict us. Sean Parker, Facebook's first president, later admitted that their engineers exploited a vulnerability in human psychology. Likes, shares, and comments are more than feedback. They're tiny dopamine traps. Behavioral psychologists call it intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that drives gamblers to pull slot machine levers long after the coins have run out. This isn't accidental. It's structural. In 2009, Facebook introduced the like button and quietly began shifting away from a chronological timeline. Content wasn't ordered by time, it was ordered by impact. Around the same period, YouTube re-engineered its recommendation algorithm to prioritize watch time. Not relevance, not truth, just attention. And attention, it turns out, is pliable. It's not your fault. The system was designed to keep you engaged, to pull you in without you even realizing it. You aren't the problem. The algorithm is. It's engineered to manipulate your behavior, to amplify your attention, and, most insidiously, to shape your thoughts. The architecture was never built with your well-being in mind. It was designed to extract as much time and attention as possible. And here's the troubling truth. It affects literally everyone, even those who think they're careful about the content they consume. The idea that you can navigate this digital landscape unaffected by its pull. It's a myth. No one is immune, not even the most cautious or informed among us. It's unavoidable. The algorithm knows you better than you know yourself, and it adapts to exploit your weaknesses. The more time you spend online, the more it learns, and the more it changes you. There is no safe space from this influence. It is omnipresent, relentless, and subtle. In 2014, Facebook's data scientists conducted an experiment on nearly 700,000 unsuspecting users. They subtly adjusted the emotional tone of their feeds, more positive for some, more negative for others. The results were chilling. Users exposed to more negativity began to post more negatively themselves. Their moods shifted, their worldview darkened. The conclusion was clear. Your emotional state can be altered not by force, not by argument, but by adjusting the emotional weather of what you scroll through. This was not a theoretical risk. It was proof. Proof that these platforms are not just reflecting human behavior, they are shaping it. And still, the machines kept learning. Tristan Harris, a former Google design ethicist, calls this the race to the bottom of the brainstem. It's not about high-minded ideals or reasoned discourse. It's about impulse, outrage, gratification, whatever keeps you there. Other insiders describe it more simply: a digital pacifier, a constant stream of novelty that soothes us into stillness, even as it quietly rewires the way we think, the way we feel, the way we act. This is the architecture of influence. It doesn't demand, it designs, not by command, but by suggestion, not with chains, but with loops. It knows us better than we know ourselves, and it is always listening. The foundation has been laid, the walls are invisible, and now, inside this structure, reality itself begins to change. Once the architecture is in place, the room begins to seal. Walls form, not of stone, but of similarity, of repetition, of comfort. The algorithm's first loyalty is not to truth, but to prediction. And it learns quickly that the easiest way to keep us engaged is to show us more of what we already like, more of what we already believe, more of what makes us feel right. This is not confirmation by accident. It is confirmation by design. The psychological term is confirmation bias, our natural tendency to seek out information that aligns with our existing worldview while dismissing or avoiding anything that challenges it. In the analog world, this bias shaped dinner conversations and book selections. Online, it becomes supercharged, algorithmically amplified. It turns the familiar into the dominant, the agreeable into the inevitable. Social scientists in the 2010s began to document a troubling pattern: the emergence of ideological silos across social networks. Spaces where dissenting opinions are not merely rare, they are filtered out entirely. Opposing views become not just uncomfortable, but invisible. The result isn't debate, it's division, not engagement, but entrenchment. Each click strengthens the walls, each like seals the door a little tighter. In these curated corridors of belief, You are constantly reassured that you are correct, that those who disagree are misled or dangerous. The algorithm doesn't care about nuance, it cares about friction. And if the path of least resistance is the one that keeps you scrolling, it will pave that path endlessly. The deeper you go, the more it rewards your certainty, your outrage, your loyalty. This is tribal reinforcement, identity fed through algorithms. Belonging becomes digitized, not in shared humanity, but in shared animosity. We are nudged not just toward information, but toward identity. The more emotionally charged our reactions, the more the system feeds us. Not despite the intensity, but because of it. And so, the reality we experience becomes increasingly self-referential. A loop, a mirror that does not reflect the world, but our most reactive selves. It feels empowering. It feels affirming. But what it's doing is isolating. These are the echo chambers, not built by extremists or ideologues, but by math, not enforced by censorship, but by preference. And once you're inside, it doesn't feel like a prison. It feels like the truth. What begins as affirmation quickly turns into acceleration. The algorithm doesn't just mirror your beliefs, it magnifies them. It stretches them to their logical limits, then nudges you further still. In 2018, technologist Zeynep Tufekci observed a pattern on YouTube. People who watched jogging videos were soon recommended ultramarathons. Newcomers to vegetarian cooking were shown vegan activism. Political rallies led, inexorably, to conspiracy theories. It wasn't a glitch, it was a feature. The system had learned that more extreme content keeps people watching longer. This is how curiosity becomes conversion. A user searching for political commentary may, within days, be shown theories of shadow governments or secret plots. A parent researching health advice might soon stumble into anti-science echo chambers. What feels like exploration is actually a guided tour, with every stop deeper than the last. There is no single voice whispering in the ear, no recruiter in the shadows, just code. Code that doesn't understand the difference between healthy debate and radicalization, only that one gets more clicks. The descent is subtle, often invisible. It feels organic, like independent thought, but it's driven by a system tuned to maximize engagement, not truth. The longer you stay, the more you're shown what keeps you emotionally hooked. The more outrageous, the better. This isn't traditional propaganda. No authoritarian is crafting the message. No ideology is required. Radicalization now arrives in increments, one suggested video at a time. And it doesn't care who you are. The pull is equal opportunity. Left or right, young or old, skeptical or open-minded. It only matters that you respond, that you follow the trail, that you stay long enough for the next link in the chain to load. It's not persuasion in the old sense. It's pattern recognition, automated extremism. And by the time you notice the shift in your own worldview, you may already be in too deep to remember how you got there. In the race for attention, lies have the advantage. In 2018, researchers at MIT uncovered a startling truth. False news spread 6 times faster on Twitter than factual reporting. And it reaches far more people. Not because of bots, not because of state actors, but because of human behavior, our appetite for novelty, for drama, for the emotionally charged. The more shocking the story, the more irresistible the click. Misinformation doesn't need to be true to be effective. It needs to be exciting, outrageous, fear-inducing. In the algorithm's arithmetic, truth is irrelevant. What matters is momentum. What matters is how fast a story moves, how deep it digs into our emotional circuitry. The result is a digital environment where the most inflammatory narratives, regardless of accuracy, rise to the top. Pandemics become fertile ground for fantasy. Unverified cures go viral. Medical hoaxes outpace scientific consensus. During elections, conspiracy theories multiply like bacteria in a petri dish. A single post, designed to provoke, can leap across demographics and continents before a correction has the chance to form. The mechanics are brutally efficient. A fearful post triggers anxiety. Anxiety leads to sharing. Sharing creates virality. The algorithm detects the spike in engagement and amplifies it further, rewarding the panic with more reach. It's a feedback loop, a viral contagion of emotion with no immune system to stop it. This isn't an accident. It's a natural outcome of systems designed to optimize for reaction. Not reliability, not nuance, not context, just response. And so, disinformation doesn't compete with the truth. It outpaces it, outperforms it, outshines it. In this environment, the lie doesn't have to be clever. It just has to be loud. The damage is rarely immediate, but always cumulative. Trust erodes. Reality fractures. We begin to question not just what's true, but whether truth is even knowable. And through it all, the algorithm continues to do what it was built to do. Keep us watching, keep us clicking, no matter the cost. When the architecture is in place, when the emotional levers have been identified, when the lies are moving faster than truth, something begins to happen off-screen. Families notice it first. A change in tone, a shift in language. The father who once watched late-night comedy now quotes obscure influencers with an unsettling certainty. A sibling starts linking together unrelated news events into a pattern of global manipulation. A neighbour becomes convinced that a pandemic is a cover for something darker. These aren't abstract shifts, they're emotional ruptures. Marriages strain, friendships break, holidays turn hostile, not because of a single video, but because of hundreds, dripped out daily, curated by systems that learn exactly what will keep someone hooked. The shift is subtle, then sudden. What was once skepticism calcifies into a worldview. One of the most visible case studies was the rise of QAnon, a decentralized conspiracy theory born in internet forums. QAnon spread from the fringe to the mainstream in a matter of months. It claimed a secret war was being waged between a global cabal and a heroic insider. It offered clarity, purpose, a grand narrative in a time of uncertainty. And it flourished not in spite of platform algorithms, but because of them. In 2020, investigative reports revealed that Facebook groups and YouTube channels promoting QAnon content were routinely pushed to new users. Engagement was high, emotions ran hot, and the algorithm rewarded that intensity by making the content more visible, more viral. This wasn't a campaign of manipulation, it was an ecosystem of reinforcement, and it pulled in millions. But QAnon is just one shape this effect takes. Health misinformation operates the same way. Anti-vaccine content doesn't need to be part of a coordinated effort to go viral. It only needs to provoke fear, tap into distrust, and gain traction. Once it does, the machine takes over. Algorithms detect the engagement and push similar content into the feeds of others who are already vulnerable to doubt. Political radicalization cuts both ways. The algorithm does not discriminate. It doesn't care what direction the belief tilts, only that it keeps people returning, engaging, reacting. Rage and righteousness generate similar metrics. This is where the illusion breaks. We imagine these platforms are making arguments, but they're not. They're making predictions, feeding us the next likely thing based on our last click. And in doing so, they're not targeting beliefs. They're targeting behavior. Belief is just the byproduct. The cost is not theoretical. It's measured in shattered relationships, disrupted communities, public health crises, and deepening cultural fractures. People are not being persuaded by some master narrative. They are being shaped by the logic of engagement. They are being offered more of whatever keeps them inside the feed, and the feed never runs out. If the algorithm is a machine built to amplify attention, then it was only a matter of time before someone figured out how to weaponize it. In 2016, during the US presidential election, a network of fake accounts operated out of Russia flooded American social media with targeted disinformation. These posts weren't random. They were precision-calibrated, designed to stoke division along lines of race, religion, politics, and class. Posing as activists, citizens, and concerned voters, these digital actors knew exactly which emotional triggers to pull. They didn't need to hack the voting machines. They hacked perception. According to the Senate Intelligence Committee's 2018 report, Russian operatives used Facebook's own ad targeting tools to infiltrate ideological communities and pit them against each other. The platform's algorithm did the rest, boosting the most provocative content to the top of feeds, reinforcing belief, inflaming hostility, and deepening polarization. And they were not the only ones watching. That same year, the world learned the name Cambridge Analytica, a political consulting firm secretly harvesting personal data from tens of millions of Facebook users without their consent. They weren't just building voter profiles, they were constructing psychological dossiers. With them, they could craft tailored political messaging designed to appeal not to logic, but to fear, identity, grievance. This wasn't persuasion. It was precision-guided influence. Cambridge Analytica didn't build the weapon. They simply learned how to load it. The algorithm, designed to optimize for engagement, became a delivery system for ideological manipulation. One so subtle, most people never noticed the fingerprints. And the model didn't stay contained. In the United Kingdom, during the lead-up to the Brexit referendum, similar tactics were deployed. Hyper-targeted ads, micro-campaigns aimed at inflaming nationalist sentiment or fear of immigration. Few of them were tracked in real time. Fewer still were seen by the broader public. Each voter received a version of the message designed specifically to move them, based on their online behaviour. In Myanmar, the consequences were even more catastrophic. In 2018, the United Nations reported that Facebook played a critical role in spreading hate speech that fueled ethnic violence against the Rohingya Muslim minority. Militant groups and bad actors used the platform to incite fear, anger, and hatred. Content the algorithm identified as highly engaging. Posts calling for violence spread uncontested. The result was not just digital unrest, but genocide. The machinery was never built to do this. But it didn't need to be. It only needed to respond to engagement, regardless of what that engagement meant. This is the uncomfortable truth. Algorithms are not inherently ideological. They are not inherently violent. They are neutral systems guided by one objective: maximize interaction. But in the hands of those with intent, they become something else entirely. A megaphone for chaos, a mirror for division, a weapon disguised as personalization. Control, once sought through propaganda and force, now slips quietly through the feed, one scroll, one ad, one notification at a time. And no one sees it coming, because it doesn't arrive with banners or broadcasts. It arrives through what we're already willing to watch. The power of the algorithm is not simply in what it shows, it's in what it hides. In a time when billions live online, no two people experience the internet the same way. What one person sees as fact, another never encounters. What sparks outrage in one feed is entirely absent from another. Reality, once collective, has become fractured. Two neighbours in the same zip code, two siblings at the same dinner table, can now inhabit completely different information ecosystems. Their feeds are personalised, optimised and endlessly filtered, not for truth, but for engagement. One sees a world on fire, the other a world under siege. Both are convinced they're seeing clearly. This is the slow erosion of consensus. A collapse, not of logic, but of alignment. When there is no shared source, no baseline of facts, argument becomes impossible. Every conversation begins in different worlds. In 2020, internal documents leaked from Facebook told a chilling story. Engineers had known for years that the algorithm amplified division. One presentation slide, reported by the Wall Street Journal, stated plainly, "Our algorithms exploit the human brain's attraction to divisiveness." Another revealed that 64% of users who joined extremist groups on the platform had been recommended those groups by the algorithm itself. These were not rumours. These were findings, buried inside the system, ignored by those with the power to act. Frances Haugen, a former Facebook product manager, stepped forward in 2021 with thousands of internal documents. Her whistleblower testimony revealed something the public had long suspected but couldn't prove. The company had studied its own impact on polarization, mental health, and political violence, and chose growth instead of intervention. Shamath Palihapitiya, once a high-ranking Facebook executive, delivered his own reckoning years earlier. He said the platform he helped build was ripping apart the social fabric of how society works. It wasn't hyperbole, it was diagnosis. These systems weren't designed to divide, but they discovered that division works. Conflict drives engagement. Engagement drives profits. And so division became the default, not enforced by ideology, but by optimization. The consequences are not just digital. Public discourse corrodes, institutions lose credibility, science becomes optional, journalism is dismissed as bias. In place of consensus, we find clusters of parallel truths, each one algorithmically nurtured, emotionally charged, and impervious to challenge. We are not just losing trust in the media, we are losing trust in each other. This is the splintering of shared reality, a new condition in which no one agrees on the nature of the world, yet everyone believes they're right. And into that fracture, anything can grow: lies, fear, extremes. When perception is engineered and belief is personalized, control no longer looks like censorship. It looks like freedom. But it's a freedom that isolates. A freedom without common ground. A freedom in which every truth has a version, and every version is reinforced until the real thing is impossible to find. In Plato's ancient allegory, prisoners are chained in a cave, mistaking shadows on the wall for reality. They believe they see truth, but they are only watching projections. Only when one prisoner escapes into the light does he realize the world is far more complex and far more real than the flickering images he once trusted. We have built our own cave. Its walls glow, its shadows scroll. But unlike the prisoners of old, we chose this confinement. We welcomed the algorithm into our pockets, our homes, our minds. And in doing so, we allowed it to shape not just our information, but our perception, our emotions, our habits, our sense of what is and isn't real. Marshall McLuhan warned, "We shape our tools, and thereafter our tools shape us." The platforms weren't designed to distort reality, but that has become their effect. In pursuit of relevance, they've made us more reactive. In pursuit of connection, they've made us more divided. In pursuit of profit, they've made us more predictable. But distortion is not destiny. There are signs of resistance. Digital literacy is no longer niche. It's survival. A generation raised inside the feed is beginning to question the architecture that surrounds them. Schools are teaching students how to recognize bias, how to verify sources, how to decode the algorithms that shape their scroll. Movements for transparency have emerged, calling on platforms to open the black box and explain why we see what we see. The technology isn't going away, but its power can be challenged. There are ways back to clarity, none of them perfect, none of them easy. We can step outside the loop by seeking information that contradicts our instincts, by asking where a claim came from and why it's reaching us now, by paying attention not only to what we consume, but to how it makes us feel. Outrage is not always insight. Virality is not validation. We can take digital breaks, not to disconnect from the world, but to rejoin it. In silence, our thoughts begin to return to their original pace. In stillness, the noise recedes. And perhaps, most importantly, we can resist the urge to frame this crisis through political lenses. This is not a left-right divide. It's not about red feeds and blue feeds. The algorithm does not care who it polarizes, only that it keeps you engaged. Everyone is susceptible. Everyone is affected. The stakes are not ideological. They are existential. Because if we continue to live inside isolated realities, then society itself becomes fragmented, unmoored from shared truth, incapable of collective action. So the final question is not rhetorical. Who controls reality? Is it the system, designed to keep us scrolling? Or is it us, still capable of conscious thought, still able to make different choices? The answer will shape not just the future of media, but the future of meaning. The feed is endless, but so is the human capacity for reflection, for resistance, for waking up.